What? Okay.
Welcome to Dorm Diaries, y'all, at TCU. I am your host, Corey, and I'm here with one of my favorite human beings on this earth.
You too,
honestly.
Aww.
LeBron Flames.
Yeah, LeBron Flames. If you know, you know.
Indeed. I met this student. I literally told myself that I was done with like first year freshman camps.
Mm-hmm. I remember you telling me that.
I was like, when I come to TCU, I'm not doing all that and did all my share. I've been a student affairs professional for forever. But I was like, you know what? Let me check out this camp and see what's going on. Let me just see. And guess who was my lead?
Facilitator?
Well,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
She was facilitating, didn't do a great job, along with, shout out Titus. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We see you, my guy. But the more I got to talk to you, I was like, I got to bring you on the episode. So first off, welcome. Do everybody a favor.
Thank you.
Let them know who you are, where you from, what's your classification.
Okay. Perfect. Hi, guys. My name is Monica Rojas. I'm a senior at TCU. I'm a criminal justice major, political science minor. I'm from Arlington, Texas.
Agtown, stand up.
Yeah, hey, we're both from Agtown.
I know, crazy.
Hey. Yeah, that's me. I was an RA in Samuelson and Carter last school year, and then now I'm the lead RA for the new dorms at Hill and Wash.
Which we are in the collision space right now. So if you are listening, you're not going to be able to see this, but if you are watching, it's such a beautiful space that I just cannot wait to see all the students living in and having a great time. But anyway, if you're here today and new, we're Dorm Diaries at TCU is really a podcast for students to share what their living experience is here at TCU, some stories. Last episode, we talked about dorm decor and like decorating rooms and stuff like that, and why that's important. And I also thought it was important to like, the more I talk to you, the more I learn so much about how like you're so involved in a billion different things, which to me is like the quintessential TCU student, right? Every student I meet, I feel like has 12 majors. And so I was like, okay, how do I capture this? Because that is realistically a part of the journey of being at TCU, right? A lot of students here are very hardworking, very driven.
Yeah.
But one theme I feel like I recognize from you is that there's a bunch of new things that you do, and you do them very gracefully, meaning it seems like you get into them with no kind of fear or nothing like that. So I kind of want to talk about your story. You started off campus, you moved on campus, you became a student leader, you go to camps, you're facilitating there.
Yeah.
You spent some time in DC,
I did
interning.
go to DC.
You did so many new things. So I just want to talk kind of about your journey, how you can help other students do well with new beginnings, and what we can take away from that. So talk to me about like your first year. You're coming from Arlington.
Yeah.
You made it to TCU. Run me through your first year.
Okay. So my first year, well, let's kind of backtrack a little bit before. Coming into college, I was pretty set on TCU. At my school, they offered like a full ride to come to TCU. I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get the full ride.
For
I'm going to go, yeah. I was a great student in high school, had like great grades. On paper, was like, had a lot of leadership. I worked in high school. So on paper, I was like a perfect candidate. And so I came in to college with that mindset of like, I'm set on TCU, I'm gonna go there, that's it. I applied to other colleges and stuff, but nothing really like called my attention. I felt like TCU was the place where I was gonna get the most opportunities, the most connections, and just like the best experience out of college, period. And so I was super set on it. Long story short, I did not get that full ride, but I had put all my eggs in that basket. So then, once I found that out, I was like, whoa, like, what am I going to do? Because A, TCU was super expensive, but also B, I didn't have any other, like, scholarships that I kind of relied on before. Right. So it's like, what, April of my senior year? I actually just got a flashback on Snapchat. That it happened 3 years ago, yeah.
Dang.
So it happened exactly almost 3 years ago. And so it's April, I'm going to graduate in May, and I was like, oh, crap, like, I haven't gotten any other financial aid. I don't know if I can afford TCU. I had gotten my financial aid from TCU, and it was probably going to be, like, $20,000
you got a little
a
gap.
year.
You got a little gap.
You
Right?
got
You
like
know what I'm saying?
$20,000 that I was missing. And I was like, yeah, that's not happening. That's not happening. So for a while, like that was a super difficult time in my life because I think that was the first time I experienced rejection to the extent that I did. Because usually like when I would try to do stuff, like I was big overachiever. I always like kind of excelled in school. Like I was a big fish in like a small pond. It felt like, and then like coming into college, it felt like big fish in a big pond.
Wow.
So I felt like small. You know
what's funny?
What?
The first interview we had, a student, shout out to Ryan, he used the exact same language.
I think it's very applicable. And so now I got here and I was like, dang, like I don't know if I can go to TCU. So I talked to my parents and they were kind of like, why do you want to go to a private university? And so like they were gonna support me, period.
Right.
But as a first gen student, I don't think they understood the value of coming to school like TCU, right?
Okay.
So
you're first gen.
Yeah, I'm first gen. My parents are immigrants, so they didn't fully comprehend why I wanted to come here. When like my sisters went to like our local university in Arlington, it was a lot cheaper. So anyways, I decided I'm gonna go to TCU, and I tell my parents. My dad's always been super big on like, okay, if you're gonna pick something, like you gotta make a plan. Like, how is it gonna work? Give me all the details. So he was like, how are you gonna make it work? And I was like, all right, my first year, I'm gonna commute. So that takes off like $10K that I don't have to pay, right? So I'm gonna commute. I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna drive to school every day, and then I'm gonna take my classes. I'm gonna keep working, and I'm gonna help you guys pay off my tuition. So we would split my tuition. The monthly bills we would split 3 ways every month. And so at first I was like, okay, and I was like, okay. Like I was also scared. And so I appreciate that you say that I've done like all these new opportunities with such grace, because I think a lot of times I do have a lot of fear. I just don't. I try not to show it because I try to convince myself that I'm not scared, you know? So in that instance, I was very scared because it was like very serious business. Like I could very much be getting my family into debt, or like getting my parents to pay a lot of money. There's a big fraction of the money that they already make. And so it was a very scary experience, and I had to have a lot of trust in myself of like, okay, I'm going to pick this school. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to help my parents, and it's going to be worth it. I don't know what I'm going to get out of it exactly just yet, and I'm scared, but I'm going to do it. And so that's how I convinced my parents to let me come to TCU. And so they've always been very supportive, but it was definitely a risk, especially as a first-gen student, not having, like, as much financial support from financial aid in that sense. And so I picked TCU, and so my first year I commuted. I was working up to, like, 30, 35 hours at the Chick-fil-A, like, right by my house. And so I would work there. I would commute to school. My drive was, like, 30 minutes without traffic, up to an hour with traffic. So every day I was driving back and forth.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it was tough. It
That's
was
what I'm
so
doing
tough.
right now.
Yeah, it was tough. And I think also I would like compare my experience to the experience of other first years at TCU, because you are required to live on campus unless you live like within a certain radius or whatever. And so a lot of first year students got the experience of like living on campus. It looked like so much fun, and I just didn't. So I think my first year was very difficult in that sense, because I didn't have access to that same kind of community or those experiences, because I came to school, I did my schoolwork, and I left. Went to work, came to school. That was it. Like, I didn't really go out of my way to build connections, build relationships, or really, like, meet people.
Like, just mingle at all. Did you have, did you have a pocket of friends at that time?
Yeah, I did. There's a handful of students from my high school that also came here, and so they were very helpful. That was kind of like my community. I had a couple of girlfriends that sometimes like I would sleep over at their dorm, or they'd be like, I'd have a late class and early morning class, so they let me sleep over. And so I did have like a small circle of friends, but it wasn't, at least in my eyes at the time, right, when I would compare myself to other people's experiences, I wasn't making as many connections as everybody else. Or at least that's what it seemed like, right? So, yeah.
Okay, so then what, like, that's a lot for, first off, commend you for making it out of your first year when, like, all the data in the world shows that, like, the cards were stacked against you. Like, most people kind of want to live off campus, but, like, the data will show that you are less successful when you live off campus. Now, stack that on top that you are first year, that's even worse. So the fact that you were able to set your goals, set your desires of, I'm going to commute, I'm going to work, I'm going to go to class, I'm going to do this, that, and the third, and still make it to year 2, year 3, year 4, you should pat yourself on the back, commend yourself for that. Good job. Okay, so then what was the decision of why didn't you just keep that up? You did well enough your first year.
Yeah. I did well enough, but it was very hard. Like, it was probably, actually, my second year was also difficult, but I think mentally, like, my first year, it was just very taxing to have, like, that stamina. Like, my days were so long. There was days where I would wake up, I would have to be at work at 4:45 a.m. I'd work till 2, and then I had a night class that ended at, like, 9:40, and then I'd still have to drive home, right? So, like, that kind of stamina, like, now I look back, I'm like, I don't know what was in me back then, because I don't know if I could do that. I know, like, it was so hard. Like, genuinely now, like, looking back, sometimes when I, like, get to rest and, like, be in my bed, I'm like, oh, I'm so thankful I get to be here right now, because back then, like, I just genuinely had no time for anything, and it was, like, so difficult to keep up that kind of mindset of, like, why am I doing this? I have to work hard. I have to make this risk worth it. And so my second year, during my first year, I thought about applying to be an RA so I could live on campus, have access to a community that I didn't have access to my first year, and just put myself out there and get out of my comfort zone.
Another new beginning.
Another new beginning. Because like I said, my first year, I didn't really care to talk to people. Like, I probably made like 2 new friends and that was it. Right. And so I was like, you know what, like, I need to do something. I'll apply to be an RA. I think it'd be a great opportunity for me to help people. I've always really liked to mentor people or kind of help guide them, especially in situations that I've kind of experienced. Like, as a first-year student, having a very difficult first year, I felt like I could use that to my advantage to help others, right? And so that's why I was like, you know what, I'm gonna apply to be an RA. I reached out to one of my friends that was an RA, Ken, and then
we got from Arlington as well, right?
From where?
It's from Arlington.
Yeah. We went to high school together. So we like got on a phone call for like an hour and a half. I asked him everything about being an RA. He gave me some tips, and he told me everything about his experience. And we ended up working together in my sophomore year.
Oh, so, yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was great.
Dang, okay. So first off, shout out to Ken.
Shout out to Ken.
And shout out to Arlington again. Just, producing Arlington. Great talent, great things. We don't really get a lot of shine, but I like to tell people.
Yeah.
Okay, so you become an RA, which is a whole new thing. You feel like you crushed it your first year?
My first year as an RA?
Yeah.
I think I did a pretty good job. I think now I'm a way better RA than I was back then, and there's definitely been a lot of growth. But I definitely think that with the training and resources and opportunities that I had, like, I think I did a decent job of, like, making really meaningful connections.
So let me ask you this then. You lived a life off campus and then you lived a life on campus. Do you feel like one, and I'm not going to say it's better than the other, but do you feel like one either made more sense to you and or was kind of better for what you wanted for your college experience?
I'm going to say, this is a cop-out answer, but I think both were meant for my college experience and what I wanted out of it. I think my first year, it taught me how far discipline and grit and motivation can get me. I worked really hard, and so to be able to look back, now that, like, my time is coming to an end and I'm going to graduate, like, I genuinely feel so much pride in knowing, like, I know how hard I worked that first year, right? So that makes it feel a lot more fulfilling in that sense. And I think that the rejection that I experienced then prepared me for rejection that I'm going to face in the future, like right now as I'm applying for, like, post-grad jobs or when I apply to law school or whatever the case is. Like, I genuinely don't fear rejection at all anymore because of that experience, because I know I survived such a hard year in my life. And so I think that was very critical to the learning that I experienced as a college student. And then on the other hand, living on campus, I think it taught me how much connection and community fills my cup, which I think I wouldn't have figured out had I kept living off campus. And throughout my college experience, I think I found a lot of meaning from being an RA and being able to help support people. And I think it's made me a better person and has also prepared me for, like, my future endeavors, wherever that may be. I think a lot of the skills that I got from being an RA have really set me up professionally, academically, mentally, emotionally. So I think both were very important to my experience.
That wasn't a cop-out answer. That was a great answer.
Oh, thank you.
But there's so much. Now I'm even thinking about this. Like when we talked about the episode, I was like, oh, you do so many things that are new. And like in my head, I've almost dismissed the fact that you're about to jump into a even more new endeavor, which is like post-college student life, right? Which is very exciting. I've lived that life as well, but then also can be very daunting. It is a new time. And you talked about like learning how to kind of relieve yourself from the rejection. But do you still, or at least let's dive into that. Was there a moment where you felt like that lesson was like learned?
In regards to my rejection?
Yeah. Because rejection can be tough.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can be rejected 10 times and sometimes it doesn't get easier. So I'm really asking, like, how did you get to your mindset now?
I think, so my first year when I didn't care to connect with people. I didn't care to meet anybody new or get myself out of my comfort zone. I think I kind of threw myself like a pity party and sat in like that sadness and that like disappointment for like almost that entire year. And so by the end of it, I was like, all right, like I have to do something with it, right? So I applied to be an RA, I applied to be a fraud camp facilitator, and I got it. And so I started to do these experiences that were out of my comfort zone, and I started to meet people. And as a fraud camp facilitator, my first year, I made some really meaningful connections, and I really felt like I connected with my campers. And so that's when I was like, you know what, I kind of like this. Like I realized I tapped into like an aspect of my passion that I had kind of forgotten about because I had to work so hard, because I was like on survival mode my first year. And so I think once I had that shift of knowing that that's what I wanted to pour my time and my energy to, like I knew that was going to fill my cup, and I was like, oh, that's why that rejection happened, you know?
Right.
And so now looking back, I think it's also started to set in as a senior. As I've reflected, I think about the butterfly effect a lot. And so, like, when I think about how that rejection happened, I think my second semester of my first year, I met one of, like, my biggest mentors. And I only met him because I was taking an evening class because I had to work at Chick-fil-A in the mornings, right? So I met him.
Except on Sundays.
Yeah. I met him. I took his class. And then he connected me with somebody who connected me to the people at the law firm I worked at last summer.
Yes.
And then when I applied,
DC?
no,
Oh,
that was here. But
okay.
when I applied to DC, my supervisor that interviewed me for that job, he was like, oh, I know that guy, because he used to be a legislator in Texas. So he's like, I know that guy that owns that law firm. Like, you're in. So he hired me, right? And so through my internship in DC, I got to go to these really cool, like, events. I got to go to the White House. I met, like, Congress people. I met legislators. I made some great connections in D.C. And now I came back, and I feel very equipped professionally for my career. And I was like, if I never took that evening class, I probably wouldn't have ever met my mentor and my professor who connected me to all these people, right? So, like, that's why I think about the butterfly effect of, like, now looking back, it's really set in of, like, I learned my lesson. Like, I see why that happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds like you have a mindset of gratitude, at least right now, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the feeling that I get. And then speaking on that, like, I would say you must feel, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. So tell me how you feel about, like, the success that you've worked for. And being a first-generational student?
I feel very proud and fulfilled, for sure. Like, I think back then I didn't understand, like, why things played out the way that they did. But now I, like, understand perfectly why they did. And I'm really thankful for those experiences. And I think that as a first-generation student, like, there were so many challenges that I faced in college, coming into college, during college. And so to be able to look back and be like, wow, like, I took that risk and I worked really hard. And on top of that, I made some really meaningful relationships, and I genuinely feel like I made an impact on people, specifically my residents as an RA, like, and as a fraud camp facilitator, or simply the people that I've surrounded myself with at TCU. I think that fills my cup in ways that other experiences probably wouldn't have.
For sure. Dang. I consider myself lucky because both of my parents went to college. And so when I was going to college, and I was like, I'm one of 11. So I'm on the younger end. So I have brothers and sisters who were also in college. So I wasn't like I was only the second one to play college sports. But even then, I was the younger in that. So I feel like I had not like a cheat code, but I had like a blueprint that could help me navigate, and sometimes you don't have that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it feels to be a first gen student.
Yeah.
But I could just imagine how proud you must be, as you just said, of meeting the goals that you wanted to meet, not only for yourself but for your family.
Yeah. I think also, like, you mentioned gratitude. I think that played a really big role in the experience that I got out of college as a first gen. I have 2 older sisters. They're both like 10 years older than me and then 7 years older than me. So they did college like a couple years ahead of me. And so as a first gen student, I didn't have that experience to lean on for my parents. I had my sisters, but they went to like the local public university in Arlington. And so I think that my first year I really sat in that kind of mindset of like, I don't have support. At least that's what I told myself, right? Like, I don't have support. I don't have the resources that other people have. I don't have parents that went to college. And that's not something to be ashamed of, but in that moment, I think I was very discouraged that maybe I didn't have the same resources as other people around me.
Right.
But I think once I kind of had that shift of being thankful that I get to be the first, like, that's when I started to get more out of my experience. And I remember, like, when I would drive to TCU, like, I had so much time to think. And, like, I think there was, like, a switch in my brain that was like, wait, yes, this is hard, and yes, this was a risk, and I don't know if it's going to be worth it just yet, but I am so lucky to, A, have a job to work at where I can make money.
Yeah.
B, to have a school to pay to get my education at. Like, I have a tuition to pay because I have the opportunity to go to school, right? C, I have a car to get me from my house to work to school. And so once I started to have that mindset, I was like, wow, like, I really am lucky. Like, is it hard? Is it difficult? Yes, but I think that there's a lot more for me to be thankful for. And so once I had that shift, I got a lot more out of my experience. And I continue to have that lens now as I, like, get to work in Hill and Wash or, like, at our new dining hall. Like, I'm always in there, like, well, this is crazy. Like, we get to eat here, you know? Like, it's crazy. Yeah, bro, I do stay in there, but you're not the first to tell me that, actually.
I'm like, I feel like if anytime I walk past her, I'm like, if I poke my head in there, I bet I'm gonna see you.
You
in there chilling, eating or talking to somebody, which is great. Like, that's why we have the spaces that we have, right? But it's good to hear you talk about, like, your gratefulness and your shift to having, like, a thankful mindset. Because I do think, me personally, that kind of helps with the subsiding the fear that you may have for like new things, right?
Yeah.
For instance, you're about to graduate, which is great, and then you're about to hopefully enter into what people would quantify as being the real world. Even though I feel like you're already in the real world, but like into post-grad work and everything else. And so you could use that time or this time to be very fearful, especially with the things that are going on in the world today. So my next question would be, and I guess really final serious question would be, how are you using your thankful mindset today? You've went through college, you're about to graduate, you're about to get your job, so to speak. I know you have a little bit of fear of that. How are you overcoming that with what thankful thoughts do you have now?
Well, I think I've reflected a lot on my experience at TCU, and I've been very thankful for, like, the lessons that I've learned here and the people that I've met, and I feel well equipped to tackle like whatever comes my way now, whether that's rejection or acceptance or community or lack of community. Like I feel well equipped to be able to handle that because I experienced the past 3 years, and it was a difficult time, but it was also a very fulfilling time. And so I think I feel well equipped for the future in that sense. And I also feel like I have built a lot of great skills that I'm going to be able to, like, I guess you could say, like, flex in the real world or in the workplace. And so now, like, as an RA, I feel very comfortable connecting with people or talking to people that I've never met because I'm an RA. And so now, like, if I go to a new job, it doesn't scare me as much to know that, like, I'm probably not going to know anybody at that job. Right. Or if I move to a new city, it doesn't really scare me that I won't know anybody. Like, to me, that's exciting. I know to some people that's, like, scary, which is fair.
Yeah,
I think, yeah, for a long time, like, I had that fear. But now, like, I don't feel scared. Like, I'm like, you could send me to anywhere. And I feel like I feel like I have the tools to make myself good eventually, right? Like, it might be hard, but I feel like I have the tools to be able to get there now. In comparison to, like, 3 years ago, I don't think I was in that place. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, don't send me nowhere that doesn't have no central air conditioning, because
I
just would not
take
survive.
That with a grain of salt. Don't send me anywhere.
Yeah, I'm about to say, it's not. Shout out to y'all, because I can't. I'll be in there just day. Yesterday was so cold.
Mm-hmm. It's cold now.
Fam, it is a little chilly in here too, especially with the bald head. But yesterday, oh my God, my fingertips, I couldn't feel my fingertips. And it was only 40 degrees outside. So I just know that I was supposed to be living during this time period of life, because if we go back to any time period that didn't have air conditioning during the Texas summer, people used to wear suits and stuff.
I don't know if I could. I'm kind of scared of, like, the cold in the north, low key. Like, I don't love the cold. Yeah,
but well, I feel like you can always bundle up in the cold though too. You kind of get a little bit used to it, but
I don't like being cold.
Okay, so if you graduate, so let's say you graduate and you come back to TCU's campus, and first years are about to move in, and you're just, I don't know, running around campus because you're like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful on campus.
Yeah, beautiful.
And you run into this first year, and they're a little timid maybe, and a little afraid about this new beginning at TCU.
Yeah.
And you only have like a minute or 30 seconds to talk to them, to give them a little bit of advice. What do you say to this student?
Oh, okay. I'd say get out of your comfort zone. I'd say have an open mind and make somebody smile. Because I think, wait, let me explain that one. That one, I've been trying to do that every day recently. I've been thinking about that a lot. And I think when I make somebody smile, whether it's like being super excited when you see them or giving them a compliment and they smile, it makes me smile, and it just makes me feel like I made an impact on somebody, and you just never know what kind of power that action can have in somebody's life. And so I've been trying to be really intentional about doing that, especially with my residents. Like, when they walk in, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's so good to see you. And so I think when you do that with people, it opens the door to build relationships, to make connections, and to make, like, really great memories. But sometimes you just kind of have to take that initiative to build those connections. And I think making somebody smile is a great way to do that. So that would be my advice.
I like that. That needs to be like your little slogan or something.
Make someone smile today?
Yeah, make someone smile today. Don't take that. Patent that.
Yeah, I do.
I ask everybody this before we sign off on all of the podcast episodes.
Okay.
You're familiar with the Riff Ram chant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was going to put you on the spot to sing it. I'm just joking.
Okay.
You just have to tell me, what is your favorite 2-word iteration of that chant? Meaning, some people like Riff Ram, some people like Bazoo. Yeah. Some people like lickety lickety. I
think I like lickety lickety.
Right?
Yeah.
And you might be the second person who has said that.
Really?
And then, 100%. And if we ever get an ice cream spot on here, I feel like we should call it lickety lickety.
Lickety lickety.
But that would not be my idea. That was Rachel Ann Hopper. So shout out to Rachel Ann Hopper for that. I'm saying it right here on the airwaves, so that if anybody takes this name, the credit goes to her.
Yeah.
She came up with it.
Shout out
lickety
Hopper.
lickety. It is what it is. Well, thanks for being my guest.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
It was a great time. I can literally talk to you for forever, so that's why I'm cutting it off now, because I don't want this to be like a 5-hour episode.
We could talk for 5 hours.
Shout out to Arlington. But anyway,
shout out Arlington. Yeah.
I'll be back for next episode, and she'll be graduated. So y'all congratulate her whenever y'all see her. Give her some high fives. Cool?
Okay. Cool.
Deuces.
Bye.